Hello, friends at First Lutheran in Red Wing. I apologize that we are not going to be able to be together due to the weather for Ash Wednesday this year. And so I thought I would use this time to give a small devotion, a little snippet of what I was going to talk about at the Ash Wednesday service that hopefully will give you something good to think about as we move forward now with the beginning of Lent. Now, every Lent begins with this day that we call Ash Wednesday, and Ash Wednesday is, among other things, a day of remembrance. It's a day we're called to remember some very, very important things. On Ash Wednesday, it has been a custom for centuries in the Christian church to have the pastor put a cross-shaped smudge of ashes on people's foreheads and to declare to them these words: "Remember that you are dust, and unto dust you shall return." Remember. Remember that you are dust. Remember that you have life because of the love of God. Remember that you have let God down in what you have done and in what you have failed to do. Primarily, we are called to remember that each of us is a sinner. And so that is our agenda for Ash Wednesday. We are called to remember. God, however, has a very different agenda on Ash Wednesday. As we contemplate our lives and our sinfulness, God has a different thing, a different agenda that is so marvelous and so wonderful that it melts the hearts of those who believe. And what is God up to that is so marvelous and wonderful, you might ask? Well, simply this. As it says in the New Testament book called Hebrews, chapter 8, verse 12, which, by the way, quotes from the Old Testament book of the prophet Jeremiah, God declares this about his people. God says, "I will be merciful toward their iniquities, and I will remember their sin no more." And so though we have sinned, though we have done evil at times, though we have consistently failed to love our neighbor as ourselves, God declares, "I will be merciful toward their iniquities, and I will remember their sin no more." So on Ash Wednesday, we remember. We remember, but on Ash Wednesday, God chooses not to remember. It is a marvelous promise from God. But let's be clear. That marvelous promise will cost God everything. It will force God to endure pain and to endure suffering that will be almost unimaginable. It will mean the death of God's own Son on a cross, forsaken by all. The promise God makes on Ash Wednesday will come at a very heavy cost to God. But as we go through these 40 days of Lent, never forget, you are so valuable. You are loved so intently and intensely by God. And God cares so deeply for you that God was willing to pay that heavy cost for you. God was willing to suffer and die so that he could say to you, and I am so honored that God has called me to say these words to each of you. God says again, "I will be merciful to your iniquities, and I will remember your sin no more." Praise be to God for his unfathomable mercy. Amen.